how woke ideology actually harms native people. I better would now call it a little bit like woke racism. This may sound a little bit strange, but I want to explain you why I think it in this way. Currently, a lot of people are wearing some ethnic jewelry on catwalks, whatever, and the woke community is just exploding because of this. But why? Things like items like these. That's a Navajo jewelry. This squash blossom is made in the 1970s, late 1960s, and all these items were made for trading and for selling to tourists. And all of this started in the very early days. Navajo people and all the Southwest people used turquoise since decades, centuries, whatever, as long as they found them. But the silver work came from the Spanish people, and they used the techniques the Spanish used because they had no silver work before. So they integrated this and used it and made their own items. What's really cool. Here you see a silversmith and his daughter, how they were working. These are postcards. And here you see something. Oops. What came along with this? In the early days, 1900, around that, it started with tourist trade, souvenir trade, and here you see some ladies going to the Santa Fe Railway and trading their ola pot they had on their head. But even this came quite more, and this is in Santa Fe. In this building is a Fred Harvey building, and Fred Harvey was one of the first trading posts that, and also hotels and whatever, in Santa Fe, and they did also do a shop and an interior design to show how Southwest design could be used in interior design, for example, and they heavily traded in their shop native made items that were made directly for them to trade to tourists. Here you see in front of directly trading native people, Navajo people, trading their jewelry as souvenirs to tourists. Even Fred Harvey did something in these old days. He also had the concept that a bracelet, for example, should not cost more than $5 for tourist trade, and these items were quite often or mostly Navajo made, but they were stamped, and they found a solution how to make these items in a cheap way for the tourists, so also the native people could earn something. So items like this, they're widely all the people that are wearing these items, they're not Navajo. Why are they so much gone after by the woke community? I don't get it. Because these items, the techniques were Spanish, and the items were made for tourist consumption. Not all. There are some items that were quite often more made for tourists. There were items that were mostly made for their own use. But it's nothing strictly just for this or that group. This is simply BS that is told by woke community, and everybody who's handling this different and tries to support today's Navajo artists and buys jewelry from them is affected by these woke communities and woke ideologies, races. Because why? These native communities decided to trade their jewelry to white people. They made the items for them. And then a woke community is coming and trying to tell these people who wanted to support craftsmen who are living in a desert, and they have no chance to do work except as firefighters or working in coal mines or uranium mines. And these people are harmed by this woke communities and ideology. So this is one thing, but we had a similar case in the early 2000s when it's one thing, it's the correct way, groups like PETA tried to affect the seal hunting. The problem was that most of the seal hunters, white seal hunters, specialized in seal hunting, they just hunted for the little ones, and they just took clubs and had thrown clubs on them and for getting them dead, and then they used the force. But the effect from this, they did not call them woke at that time, but from these activists, PETA or what else activists, they had caused massive problems in indigenous communities like the Inuit on Greenland, on even on the whole Canadian coast. They had massive troubles because the problem was that these communities hunted seal. They have no way to go to a supermarket and to buy stuff because, first of all, there are no jobs, and these people live from the land. They, as always, as long as I could remember, and then the activists, these at that time ecological activists, simply get a ban from the Europeans and other states that they did not import seal fur anymore. And this was a heavy problem and a heavy harmful activity for the indigenous people in Canada and on Greenland. I have something here. This is, I bought vintage. I found this last spring, and you see inside this little tag that's saying from full grown and non-endangered seals in Greenland, because these communities were so much harmed by this ban. They cannot go to a supermarket because through the shipping costs and so on, the items you could buy in a supermarket, the food, is quite expensive. And it's even more expensive than in towns in the normal states in the Canada and also in the United States, because there are long distances per flight, per airplanes. These items had to be brought over to these communities. So there is no way for them to simply not to hunt and simply just to go to a store, because there are no jobs. The people are in trouble to earn enough to simply buy goods they normally have to buy. We all have to buy. So, and then the prices are much higher than more in the south, in the States and in Canada. So this ban back then from Europe and from other states affected them heavily, because seals were hunted there as food for in the winter times, and when there's nothing else to hunt, as they did these like their ancestors. And the furs from these adult seals were traded away to get some money for fuel, for gas, for clothing and so on. So these indigenous hunting did not affect the seal population, because it was done in a way as it was done since ancestral times. So But these communities were heavily affected. And this is what happens through such woke activisms. And then we had another case I have with my Native American friends, that happens to them in cities like Berlin. They have some living near Berlin, and when I speak with them, they have much troubles because of white people are telling them or stay in front of them, and they're telling them, white woke activists that have no idea of the life of indigenous peoples in Canada and the States, they are telling these indigenous people how that they are not allowed anymore to call themselves Indians, whatever. So hey, where did we go to? I mean, how racist is that? It's woke racism, because they are not asking them, hey, how do you want to be called? How should I call you? Hey, tell me something about your culture. No, it's you. I am white, I am woke, and because I am woke, I know how you have to feel with this term Indians, whatever. So, isn't this a little bit weird? I mean, to be interested in a foreign culture is, for most of my friends, no problem. And they really tell a lot of things when you ask them for, but not even to ask them, but to tell them that they should not use the terms how they call themselves at home. How weird got this world, and how much effect and harm to indigenous communities this woke BS brings and affects on them is just a weird thing. And I simply have to make this little video because I am so much offended because of my friends, because of this white idiots who are not even interested in indigenous people, but they think they have to think of how they should think and how they should see themselves. And sorry guys, this is BS. So please be a little bit nice to everybody else and try to be interested in foreign person that you maybe don't know, and ask them how they feel about things without just being offended yourself because somebody from these communities use a word, use an animal, whatever, in their daily life as their ancestors do or did, but because they are offended of these white woke racists that are now coming across and telling them what to do and what not to do, because they had seen these kind of racist activities for a long time. And you are just another chapter as woke activists. Thank you. Bye.